Santorini, one of Greece's most famous and beautiful islands, has been experiencing an alarming number of earthquakes in recent weeks. Thousands of tremors have shaken the island, making scientists and residents anxious about what might come next. People are now wondering if Santorini is on the verge of a major disaster. The island has a long history of powerful geological events. Around 3,600 years ago, Santorini experienced one of the largest volcanic eruptions ever recorded. This massive explosion not only changed the island's shape but may have also played a role in the downfall of the Minoan civilization. Given this history, scientists are concerned that the current wave of tremors could mean one of three things: a temporary period of increased seismic activity, a strong earthquake forming, or even early signs of volcanic activity. The island's past holds important clues about what could happen next. The question remains, will Santorini experience a devastating earthquake or volcanic eruption, or will things eventually settle down? Understanding the science, history, and risks behind this earthquake swarm can help us find some answers. Santorini is located in one of the most geologically active regions in the world, known as the Hellenic Arc. This area is a major tectonic boundary where massive sections of the Earth's crust slowly shift. The Hellenic Arc stretches across southern Greece, from the Ionian Islands in the west to Crete and the Dodecanese Islands in the east. Santorini sits right in the middle of this highly active zone. The movements of the Earth's plates in this region are caused by the slow sinking of the African plate beneath the Eurasian plate. This process, known as subduction, happens at a rate of about 4 to 5 centimeters per year. The interaction between these plates causes frequent earthquakes and also feeds the magma chambers beneath Santorini, making it one of the most geologically dangerous locations in the Mediterranean. The recent earthquakes near Santorini have been linked to movements along the Anidra Fault, a major fault line running between Santorini and the nearby island of Amorgos. This fault has a history of producing powerful earthquakes, including the devastating 1956 Amorgos earthquake. That event had a magnitude of 7.7 and triggered a destructive tsunami. Now, in 2025, the earthquake swarm suggests that stress is once again building up along this fault, raising concerns about a potential major earthquake. In regions like this, earthquake swarms can sometimes be a sign that stress is slowly being released. However, they can also be a warning of an upcoming large earthquake. Scientists believe that the current earthquake swarm is mostly caused by tectonic activity rather than volcanic activity. However, the stress from plate movements can influence underground magma, meaning that even if the tremors are not directly caused by a volcano, they could still lead to volcanic activity in the future. This highlights the close connection between Santorini's seismic and volcanic systems. Santorini has a long history of both massive volcanic eruptions and devastating earthquakes. Understanding these past events is important when assessing the current risks. One of the most famous events in the island's history was the Minoan eruption, which was one of the largest volcanic eruptions ever recorded. This eruption drastically changed the shape of the island, creating the caldera, a large volcanic crater, that we see today. It also caused giant tsunamis that affected surrounding regions and may have contributed to the collapse of the Minoan civilization. While there are currently no signs that an eruption of this scale is about to happen again, the presence of magma chambers beneath Santorini remains a serious concern. In 1956, Santorini experienced one of the strongest earthquakes in modern Greek history. This magnitude 7.7 earthquake was centered near Amorgos and caused massive destruction in the Cyclades region. It killed 53 people and generated a tsunami that further devastated the area. Since the current earthquake swarm is occurring near the same fault, scientists are closely monitoring the situation to see if a similar large earthquake could happen. Between 2011 and 2012, increased seismic activity and ground deformation were detected in Santorini. At the time, there were concerns that these signs could indicate an upcoming volcanic eruption. However, the unrest eventually subsided without any major event. Still, this period served as a reminder that Santorini is an active geological zone, and both earthquakes and volcanic eruptions remain real threats. Since January 31, 2025, hundreds of undersea earthquakes have been recorded in Santorini. At first, the tremors were mostly small, measuring less than magnitude 3, and were barely noticeable. However, over time, the seismic activity became stronger and more frequent. In just a few weeks, thousands of earthquakes have been recorded, with some days seeing as many as 30 quakes measuring above magnitude 4.0. Many of these have been at depths of less than 10 kilometers, making them strong enough to be felt by people on the surrounding islands. These larger earthquakes have already caused minor damage. Rockfalls have occurred along the island's coastal cliffs, and some older or vulnerable buildings have suffered cracks. The strongest earthquake so far was a magnitude 5.2 quake on February 5, which was felt not only in Santorini but also in Athens, Crete, and even parts of Turkey, more than 140 kilometers away. Due to this surge in seismic activity, the Greek government has declared a state of emergency on the island. Authorities have taken several precautionary measures, including closing schools, mobilizing emergency services, and advising residents to avoid certain areas due to the risk of landslides. More than 11,000 people have been evacuated from the island as a safety precaution. Seismologists are closely monitoring the situation, but predicting what will happen next is difficult. Earthquake swarms in this type of tectonic setting can last for days, weeks, or even months. Experts are now considering whether these tremors could be a warning sign of a much bigger earthquake. There are three main possibilities. The first and most hopeful scenario is that the earthquake swarm will gradually decrease in frequency and eventually stop without leading to a major seismic event. This outcome has happened in many other similar cases. The second possibility is that if the stress along the Anidra fault continues to build up, it could eventually reach a critical level, triggering a major earthquake with a magnitude of 6 to 7. Such an earthquake would cause severe shaking, leading to structural damage, landslides, and possibly even a tsunami. The third and most concerning possibility is that the recent earthquake activity could trigger volcanic movement beneath Santorini. While scientists currently believe the tremors are mostly caused by tectonic activity, it is still possible that the increased stress could lead to magma rising toward the surface. If this happens, Santorini could experience a volcanic eruption similar to the one that occurred between 1866 and 1870. Although that eruption was relatively small, it still had a significant impact on the region. Because it is difficult to predict earthquakes with complete accuracy, experts are taking the current swarm very seriously. A sustained period of strong tremors in a geologically active area like Santorini is a cause for concern. If a major earthquake occurs, it could lead to serious consequences, including damage to buildings, loss of life, and economic hardship for the island's residents. If a volcanic eruption were to follow, it could further impact the region's environment, tourism, and daily life. For now, scientists continue to monitor the seismic activity closely. Residents and authorities remain on high alert, hoping for the best but preparing for the worst. If a powerful earthquake were to hit Santorini, the impact could be devastating, not only for the island itself but also for the surrounding regions in the Aegean Sea. Santorini's unique landscape, with its steep cliffs, volcanic caldera, and tightly packed buildings, creates multiple risks that could turn an earthquake into a large-scale disaster. The island's famous whitewashed houses and blue-domed churches are not just beautiful landmarks, they are also highly vulnerable to earthquakes. Many of these structures were built centuries ago, long before modern earthquake-resistant construction methods were developed. Many older buildings are made of stone and cement with little reinforcement, meaning that a strong earthquake, especially one above magnitude 6.5, could cause serious damage or even complete collapses. Santorini is one of the world's top tourist destinations, welcoming over 2 million visitors each year. Tourism is the backbone of its economy, and many luxury hotels are built along the island's steep cliffs. If a strong earthquake were to occur, landslides could damage or completely destroy these hotels and other businesses, severely impacting the island's economy and putting lives at risk. Santorini's main port, Athenios, is located at the base of steep volcanic cliffs. If a major earthquake struck, the port could suffer damage, cutting off vital transportation routes and limiting access to emergency supplies. In a worst-case scenario, buildings along the edge of the caldera could partially collapse, leading to casualties and leaving thousands of residents and tourists without shelter. Another serious threat is the possibility of a tsunami. If the earthquake were to occur underwater, it could generate powerful waves that could reach Santorini and nearby islands within minutes. Low-lying coastal areas, such as Kamai, Parissa, and parts of Atheneo's port, would be particularly at risk of flooding. If the earthquake also triggered an underwater landslide, the risk of a tsunami would be even greater. Unlike larger coastal cities with well-developed tsunami evacuation plans, Santorini's steep terrain and limited escape routes make it difficult for people to reach higher ground quickly. While the chances of a tsunami as massive as the one caused by the Minoan eruption are low, a localized tsunami from an undersea quake remains a very real possibility. Santorini's breathtaking beauty hides a dangerous reality. It is a ticking geological time bomb. Whether the current earthquake swarm leads to a major disaster or eventually fades away, the island will always remain vulnerable to earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides, and even volcanic activity. While it is impossible to predict with certainty whether a major event is about to happen, the risk of a powerful earthquake cannot be ignored. Given Santorini's history of both strong earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, continuous monitoring and preparedness are essential. Whether the current seismic activity decreases or escalates into something more serious, it is a reminder of the unpredictable forces of nature. Staying vigilant and ready for any potential disaster is the best way to protect the people and the island from the dangers that may come.